Sorry, I hope to have that all adjusted before it started. Oh, come on, tripod. Behave. This is not how I wanted to start. Are you gonna stay? Are you gonna stay? Sorry, I'm having technical issues with my tripod here. It is being extremely uncooperative. Just stay. Just like that. Don't move. Apologies. That was a fun start. Alright, let me get my shares, notifications here. And closing Discord. Sorry for the late start. Yes, the Krampuses were absolutely trying to escape. That's what that was. I blame it all on them. So, sorry for the late start today. I was painting this guy this morning, trying to finish up the background. I may have gotten a little bit carried away, just a tiny bit. Just a tiny little bit. Obviously, I didn't quite finish it. But, yeah, and then I had to run some errands because we were out of cat food and coffee, which, as we all know, are the two essential staple foods in life. And got back from that, and it was time to stream, and I needed to get some food in me first. So, this is day 4 of 4 pieces of Krampus art. I am going to be making greeting cards out of these. So the first day we had the very traditional Krampus, and the second day we had the Krampus Claus, I guess. He's stealing Santa's gig there. And day 3 we got this dapper Edwardian fella with some cat hair on him. And he is not finished, but I will be finishing him off stream as far as the background and the border. And instead, today, I'm going to get started on, gotta get those guys out of the way, the Wilderness Krampus, which is the last one here. I'm second guessing his horns a little bit, but we'll see when we get to that. I know the pencils don't show up very well on camera, but don't worry. In these streams, I have generally been going from what probably looks like a blank piece of paper on camera to a 90 to 95% finished piece of Krampus art. So, got slightly muddy water here, but it's not too heavily used. Got my tester paper, and I got my nasty grayish brown. It's an ugly color, but it's the color I've been using for the Krampuses. And first thing I'm going to do is get it real dry, just a little bit on the brush, and kind of solidify those pencil lines. I will be trying to keep an eye on the chat. I didn't do so good on that the very first stream, but the first Krampus stream was a disaster, so on a technical level. The others since have been much better. The trick is that my computer sucks. I was trying to use a nice webcam. It's quite a nice camera. It does very well for like video chat, but not so well for streaming apparently. My computer just couldn't handle it and it was lagging like crazy. So the video from that stream is basically unusable. But my cell phone, which in theory I would expect a cell phone to be less technologically advanced than a nice laptop, it streams way the hell better than my computer does. So we're going with what works. I feel bad for my computer. It is a fairly inexpensive laptop as these things go, but it has served me well over the years up until this. This one's got long, scary fingers. Maybe it makes up for the Santa Krampus's hands, which started out as cartoonish blobs. Get a thumb in there. This guy is essentially naked, except for some manacles and chains, but that's okay, because you can't really see anything. Unlike the Edwardian Krampus, who bothered me with his one hoof and one human foot arrangement, I decided to go ahead and do just the plain old goat hoofs for this guy. I guess I couldn't handle drawing that but once. Well, my wife is about to feed the cat, so it's about to get noisy in here. The noise will primarily be Froggy. You're not even in here yet, and there's cat hair on this drawing. Here it comes. Here it comes. Give us the meep. Yeah.
I don't know if the audio's picking that up. But...
I don't know. I'll find out later.
Yeah.
Froggy is a cat who yells. And as soon as she finishes eating, she will yell to be let out of the room again. As if she has been abandoned in here all alone, even though I'm sitting right here. Cat hair on my paintbrush. Very helpful. My wife says she could hear Froggy eating on the camera microphone. That is some loud crunch. Oh, oh, Froggy. You're not alone in here. I'm in here too. What if maybe I'm trapped in this room? Did you ever think about that? No? You never thought about that? What if I need you to let me out? I would, if I get the chance, like to make myself a Krampus mask this year. And if I do so, this guy is probably the closest of what I've drawn to what I would want it to look like. But we'll see. There never seems to be enough time to do all the projects that I want to get done. Hence the username, More Art Than Time. Are you going to finish eating? Okay. She just had to take a break. A chat break. this guy is definitely the most goatish of the versions I have drawn so far. Almost a little bit of puka there in his design. Maybe they're distant cousins. Mm-hmm. Tell us of your woes, Froggy. But how do you really feel? I'm gonna just go ahead and commit to these horns after all. Because I do like the shape of them, it's just that they're very, very similar to the horns on the Krampus claws. But it's from a very different perspective. This guy's almost a little bit from behind and like turning around. Yeah. Uh-huh. Alright. Hello, new friend. May I ask where you saw the link? And I will let you take a quick look at that outline there while I release the cat. You. Uh-huh. There you go. Door's open. Okay, Nexus chat. I posted it a couple different places in Discord, so that's why I was curious, and I did post it on Facebook also. Is that dry? That ought to dry pretty quick. I got a few little bits of pencil I'd like to get out of there that are just muddying things up. Probably you wouldn't be able to see them when it's all done, but just in case. Lurking is just fine. I appreciate anyone who wants to hang out on here in any capacity. So all of these guys have some kind of plant border going around. We got holly, we got mistletoe, and we got just kind of some thorny branches. I kept his border simpler because he himself is more detailed. So for this guy, I'm planning on like pine boughs going around the border, which is going to be pretty heavy. But I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to have going on in the background. And he may go a little faster than some of them because he doesn't have as much color variation to him. He's just kind of one solid color. Froggy likes to yell after lunch. Froggy likes to yell after lunch, before dinner, after dinner. Hey, and I see the fun Skeksis too. Froggy likes to yell when she wakes up and she doesn't know where Mommy is. Froggy likes to yell. That's That's what it comes down to. So I do feel like I have kind of this default direction that I tend to do my lighting from, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with it. It makes things consistent, I guess. I almost feel like I might want to get a little hint of black in on some of this shading. He's basically going to be sort of the same color as the traditional Krampus. I don't want to do a dark background for him because he is himself going to be fairly dark. You know, it occurs to me this guy doesn't have any bells. Maybe they're on the front. Because in theory they should be on like the straps. Maybe I'll just put executive decision here. Maybe I'll just put a couple bells like they're hanging off the belt here. But not in the armpits, because nobody wants armpit bells. That would be uncomfortable. You heard it here first. I apologize for turning the piece upside down. Sometimes it's a little easier for me to get things where I want them that way. I think Froggy may be out there yelling now because Mommy is not immediately evident. Therefore, she has been abandoned. I have never known a cat who lacked such object permanence. Probably these shadows are going to get darker as I move along, but for now it gives me a guideline where to start. Like I always tell people on here, don't paint the way I paint. I'm aware I'm doing it backwards. I do things in the way that they're probably not supposed to be done. I'm familiar enough with watercolors to get away with it, but that doesn't mean I recommend it. A tutorial, this is not. Yep. Froggy is back with the yell. What's the matter? Yes. Uh-huh. I bet if you went up to the room where you've been with Reggie for most of the day, that you would find that she is up there. They yell because we converse with them. My cat doesn't yell. My cat mips and meeps and squawks and squeaks. She doesn't generally yell, though. Well, except when Froggy corners her. Then she yells and screams and hisses. Our cats, they are not friends. She may also, in fact, be talking to the litter box, which is a thing she does. Wasn't even looking in my water bottle there. Whew, oh, that's darker than I meant for it to be, but that's alright. It'll blend out. I don't feel like I want to do too much on the hands yet. I'll probably refine those when I get later in. Apologize for my squeaky chair. It is an old computer chair, but it is doing its best. Much like my computer itself, in fact. And my car. Much of the things we own are old, but they're doing their best. I'm getting older, but I'm doing my best. I feel like the shading color got a little inconsistent here. There. Some of the shading, it's okay for it to be a little more harder edged than I want, because it will kind of get blended out as I layer watercolor over it, because it is inevitable if you try and do details and stuff at this stage and then layer more watercolors over it, it will kind of blend down and wash out those hard edges. It can be a good thing if you're expecting it. You just need to know what you're working with. Alright, so we got some initial shading down to kind of flesh out his figure. And a coffee break. It is decaf, but I dumped a little bit of hot cocoa mix in there. But it was really old hot cocoa mix, and it had mini marshmallows in it. So there's a couple mini marshmallows floating in my coffee. Not sure how I feel about that. I think, for the sake of expediency, because these are larger areas, I'm going to go over this with a slightly bigger brush. I have a bad habit of getting into doing the detail work a little too early. If I use a bigger brush, that'll help keep me from doing that. And I'm leaving just a little bit of rim lighting here. Coffee with marshmallows is a valid life choice. It was not really a choice. It was an accident. I'm not saying it was a mistake, but it was an accident. Also, just to fanboy for a moment, but I am part of the Stilt Beast Studios Discord channel, and I posted the first Krampus, the traditional Krampus, on there because he's got a section for, you know, show off art you're making, and Alan Hops himself responded and thought it was pretty cool. So, which it's his channel, it's his creature shop. For anyone who doesn't know who Alan Hops is, he runs Stilt Beast Studios, which is a company that primarily makes masks and props and stuff for mostly haunted houses. It's not stuff that's meant to be on film necessarily, so his level of detail is a little different than what I would go for, but because haunted houses tend to run on a budget, he does all these tutorials and stuff for how to make props with a very limited budget. I mean, we're talking stuff like hardware store spray foam and pool noodles and paper mache, and comes up with just really cool stuff made with these cheap materials. And, you know, makes a living off of selling stuff that he's made out of these things because the finished products look really good. So, yeah, he's a cool guy. I don't think he's on Twitch at all, but he is on YouTube. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff at all, definitely check out his YouTube channel. He has lots of tutorials. And, oh God, what is this? There's a blob. What is this blob? Oh no. I don't know if that's a spot that the paper got roughed up or if it's something that came off the paintbrush. But there's a big old freckle on his leg now. Hopefully I can just kind of hide that with the shadows. Anyways, yeah, Alan Hops with Stilt P Studios, and he's got a Patreon, and he's got a lot of tutorials. Highly recommend his stuff. And he does streams on YouTube, and they are a friendly good time. It's usually small enough numbers in the chat that if you say something, he sees you and responds to you. They're a very welcoming environment. A few times a year, he does something called Monster Camp, which is where he has a class, basically, and people go hang out there, and over several days, the several days course, learn to, like, sculpt a mask out of clay, and make a mold, and, you know, make the mask off of the mold, and then paint it, so that, like, you finish the class with your own finished mask that you made yourself from start to finish, which is just so cool. I would love to go to Monster Camp someday. Plus, you know, in the meantime, you get to hang out with them and pet their dogs and cats, which are, of course, also a feature of the videos. I'm not saying I would pay airfare and travel across the country just to pet somebody else's cat. But, you know, if you're gonna pay airfare and travel across the country to visit somebody else, then getting to pet their dogs and cats is definitely a good bonus. I'm kind of disappointed Maxie hasn't come to make an appearance on the stream yet. She was all up in my face for the first one. And I'm really not happy with that blob. This is the price you pay for working with traditional media. You missed the context? That's okay. The context was I added hot cocoa mix to my coffee and didn't know that it had marshmallows in it. But I am saddled with it now. Yeah, I do think this guy is going to go the fastest of all of them. Just because he's naked. Which is good. But at the same time, I'm putting off the background because I'm not quite sure what to do for that. And if I'm finishing faster, then I have to figure out what I'm doing for the background sooner. It's like using coffee instead of milk for hot cocoa bomb. I've never used a hot cocoa bomb. I have seen them. I don't know. Maybe Santa will bring me some this year. When I went and did errands and got more coffee a little bit earlier, I admit I went to the cheap ass grocery store because it was close, but I was kind of looking for, hot cocoa mix, and I saw hot cocoa pods, like Keurig pods, which, in my experience, the hot cocoa pods for the Keurigs are not great. Kind of weird. Kind of an odd taste. I did not see any just plain powdered hot cocoa. I don't know why not. But believe me, I looked. Are you guys trying to tell me that my wife is secretly Santa Claus? How could you shatter my innocence like that? Now, when I was quite young, I approached my parents and asked them if Santa was really real because I kind of had some thoughts and some ideas on that. And they wouldn't really give me a definitive answer, possibly because I was too young and they weren't expecting me to have that question that young. But I did, and then some friends of ours had some kids that were a little older than me, and still believed. And I approached them and tried to convince them that Santa wasn't real. At which point the grown-ups had to take me aside and tell me that that is not a thing that you do. So, yeah, I don't know why I was trying to persuade kids older than me that that was a thing. But then my parents convinced me that there was the spirit of Christmas. And I was a kid. So I decided what that meant was that you had to wait on Christmas Eve because the spirit of Christmas would come down the chimney and bless the presents. Just, this amorphous, ghostly blessing presents. I'm not entirely sure where I came up with that idea, but that was why you couldn't sneak out there and couldn't open the presents until the next day, because you had to wait for them to be blessed by the Christmas spirit. Made some kind of sense to me at the time. So, this stuff that's mine is More Art Than Time is the name on it, but all the joint stuff that Bridgie and I have where we sell artwork is Raven Dove Arts is the official business name. And generally people who know us are pretty quick to guess who is the raven and who is the dove in that combination. So I guess, yeah, the other question there is who is the Santa of us and who is the Krampus? Is this like the question gay couples get asked where they're like, who's the guy and who's the girl? Because, we've been through that. Unfortunately, there actually was an answer, but that's not true for your average lesbians. We thought we were lesbians. Hindsight is 20/20. easy in your relationship. My wife is the mermaid and I'm the sailor. Oh, that is absolutely, yeah. My comic is kind of sitting dormant at the moment, unfortunately, just because there's limited time. But it's about a pirate and not a mermaid, oh God, the name escapes me. Like Ursula from The Little Mermaid. An octopus mermaid. Cicalia? I think Cicalia is the right term. Anyways, they are definitely heavily based on Bridgie and I. So she is the Cicalia of their relationship, and I'm the pirate. But then I'm the pirate of any relationship, because I'm just a pirate. Cicalia. Thank you for the spelling in the chat there. Gosh, he's going so fast. Oh. Does the camera pick that up? Hi. Did you come to be part of the stream? Did you come to wail at me and stand just out of reach? Come here. Yeah. Well, okay. If that's how it's gonna be. Maxie has come to purr at us. This is why there's cat hair in all my paint. Please don't chew on the tripod. The real question is the camera mic picking up on the purr? Mm-hmm. You're ridiculous. Well, go on then. Oh God, there's cat hair. There's cat hair everywhere. Thanks, Maxie. You're a streamer cat. That's earlier than the other stream. We're only 54 minutes in. It was an hour and 2 minutes last time. Alright. More cat hair. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and go darker on this guy than on any of the others. There really is cat hair everywhere now. Just kind of getting some black tipping in his hair here. I have watched enough streamers and YouTubers to believe that no stream is complete without the presence of a cat. So I kind of appreciate Maxie adding her presence in here. Maxie is not good. Maxie is chaotic neutral. Dogs count too. Dogs do count. But for some reason, a lot of the streamers I watch have cats. I think maybe the cats, come up on the cameras more just because the cats are able to, get right up on there on the table. Whereas your average dog can't make that. So on yesterday's, I really put off the face until the last little bit. And on today's, I'm just jumping right in at the head. No consistency. We don't believe in consistency around here. Thinking I might make the straps of that basket, wooden basket, whatever, green or red. I might do red, the same as the loud motor noise, the same as the Dapper Krampus, just because the pine boughs are going to put enough green in there already. Oh, you're looking a little bit like a wolfman right now. I think that's just because I don't have the rest of the face darkened in yet. And she's back. What's up? What does the Maxi Pie need? What she needs is to wander in and out and meep at me. Uh-huh. You can play with the shoelaces all you want. Those shoelaces are all yours. When I'm not wearing them, my boots belong to Maxie. I think that's getting to be a pretty good Krampus face there. Kind of goat-like. The blotch on his leg isn't looking quite as bad. I don't know if you guys could see what I was seeing, but right there's like this dark blotch. And it's almost like some kind of imperfection in the paper, that it absorbed the paint way more than, way more than the rest. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. That's just my best guess. Gonna go ahead, for the sake of breaking up the monotony of gray for a moment, get a little bit of my colors in. He doesn't have as much color as some of them. But he does get a couple of highlights. Trying to get this real thick here, even though it's a little blot of color. got orange right in the base of the pen, or paintbrush. My wife is talking about a picture that she drew ages ago of an aardvark's tongue going like a party noisemaker when you squeeze it. You guys can just look at that drawing for a minute. Oh, I'm so disappointed. I couldn't find it on short notice. But the thing about me is I do keep everything. Aardvarks used to be a big joke between me and Bridgie. And I do still have some old aardvark drawings that Bridgie did way back in the when. The Hell Aardvark is a joke off of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. From Frollo's song. See, when you meet over the internet in like high school and college, and you stay up late at night as dumb teenagers or 20-somethings, is you get some dumb jokes that get passed around. Jokes that won't make sense to anybody else. Jokes that probably aren't even that funny in the light of day. So Bridgie knows that I keep everything and anything, and shouldn't be that surprised that I still have these drawings. I will say the thing she definitely didn't know is that I have a folder here of very old artwork that's hanging out under the desk that I'm working on. basically I stopped saving artwork in this folder in the early 2000s. So it's a little bit of a time capsule. There's a URL written on the edge of a page here with the URLs from Angel Cities, Angel Fire. I know it's from back in the days of GeoCities. Yeah, I'm not seeing the aardvark of my dreams. I'm sure it's around somewhere. But there is definitely some quite old art in here. And not all of it is mine. But, you know, Bridget used to draw some anime type stuff too. Got an old comic in here that never got finished. That's Bridgie's work. I never was able to draw anime that way. Never quite got the hang of it. But, you know, I got some embarrassing older art myself. Colored in Photoshop with the difference filter for fancy effects. That was an angel character that I had. There's one of my attempts at something anime style. It's, man, that paper's beat up. There's a centaur character of mine named Delwyn, who I have since drawn far more realistically. But, yeah, bet you guys didn't know it was going to turn into a show and tell. The amount of archaic art that I have laying around, filed away, is a little alarming. Never bring out the AutoCAR book on stream. Well, I do still have plans to make my AutoCAR comic. So I'm not planning to show off too much of that stuff, because it would give things away. I did have some ancient Damien Stockholm art in there, though. Which I have taken a break, unfortunately, from the comic I was working on, just because working on art to sell at the farmer's market is a little more lucrative right now. But I have been working on a comic. It is nearing completion. I was working before on the coloring on the pages. These are terribly out of order and sans text. But yeah, the first 3 pages are almost entirely colored. And I would not be opposed to doing the coloring of some of those on streams at some point as well. I do think it reads pretty well close up. I had started coloring them digitally, and it was driving me nuts. So I resorted to coloring them in watercolor, and no regrets. Haven't looked back. So yeah, hopefully sometime soon I'll be able to get back to coloring on those pages. Because I would like to get that comic finished. Hopefully before the year is out. Thank you. It would be nice to know that I have a buyer if it gets published. Do have a contact who pointed out somebody to me that does do publishing, so, you know, I wanted to get those first 3 pages totally colored and get the text on them and stuff, and then send them off to him and, you know, see what he says. I don't like to hold my breath for anything. But yeah, the story is about I want to say a vampire hunter. That is primarily what he does. But he's also buddies with a lot of vampires and werewolves and supernatural creatures. So it's not like he's hunting them because he's racist. He mostly gets hired by them to hunt others of their own species. But he's a character that's been kicking around for a very long time. Longer than I've known Bridgie, honestly. Anyway, I could find lots to say about DS. He remains one of my favorite characters. He's just a guy. Just a kind of hapless guy who happens to be a vampire hunter. Part of the idea there, though, is anything, you know, you live it and you're around it day in, day out, anything can become normal. So his life around vampires and werewolves and stuff, it's all just pretty normal as far as he's concerned, because he's around them all the time. So he doesn't really see it as exciting or spooky or anything. It's just his life. Yeah, DS has definitely been in my head for a long time. I feel a little bit awkward because he is a cisgender straight guy which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a queer person, I do feel a little bit of an obligation that, like, I should be making queer comics. And I have some ideas for queer comics, but he isn't it. And, like, should I be making queer comics instead? Is there an obligation there to do that? But the ideas that I have for the queer comics are not solidified enough for me to actually make them yet. So they're on the back burner for now. And instead, I'm working on a comic of a cisgender straight guy who just happens to hunt vampires. I don't mean for his hands to be so much paler than the rest of him, but I'm also a little scared of losing the details. He's pointy? I assume you mean the claws. I feel like it's getting lost against the white a little bit, but there's a close-up of the hand. Artists are supposed to hate hands. I kind of like hands. I kind of like drawing them. I'm just weird like that. I do feel like they're one of my strong suits. Hands are just so important. They say so much about a person. Like in my RP characters and stuff, I really think about what their hands are like specifically. I think the fact that I'm left-handed might be part of why I think about hands so much. Because being left-handed always seemed like a somewhat significant thing about me. It affects the way that you interact with the world. I learned left from right at an early age because left is the hand I use and right is the hand everybody else uses. That was how I learned to tell. Which then that got me messed up at one point when I was a little kid because I was looking at my dad and I got confused until my mother pointed out that my dad is also left-handed. Just gonna wipe it off, but let me use a little bit of that. My wife says she had a meltdown in kindergarten because she couldn't figure out right from left on the spot when the teacher called on her. Which is funny to me because my wife is also left-handed. So, apparently that rule of it's the hand nobody else uses didn't click. Also couldn't figure out how to pedal a tricycle forward in preschool. So did you just do laps going backwards? Because that sounds like it would make for some entertaining video. Just this kid doing laps on the bike, the tricycle backwards. I don't know how to go forward. I love you, honey. Bold of me to assume that she could manage a lap on a wheeled vehicle, she almost rolled backwards down a hill. Well, okay then. This is why neither my wife nor I rides bikes. They say it's easy to learn in childhood, and then once you do, you never forget it, but some of us never mastered bicycles in childhood. My parents flat out wouldn't let me have one, which I'm paying for it now today as an adult because I still can't ride a bike. I did have a friend who tried to teach me. He was a tall friend. He told me to sit on the seat of the bike and put my feet down so they touch the ground on either side of the bike. I said, when I put my feet down on either side of the bike, they don't touch the ground. Somehow it hadn't occurred to him that his bike would be sized differently and might not work for me. I did actually manage to ride it a little bit, but because I couldn't put my feet down when I stopped, the only way I knew how to stop the bike was to ride it directly into a bush so that the bush would hold the bike upright. I am sure that the neighbors whose bush I used appreciated the hell out of that. And yes, I was in high school by this time, so I should have known better. Cat here. My mother, when she was a child, knew how to ride a bike, but she was a very indecisive individual, and she was playing as a kid in the street, as they did, and somebody else was just learning to ride their bike and came down the hill yelling, "Get out of the way, I don't know how to stop yet." And my mother said half the kids ran one way and half the kids ran the other way, and my mom stood there in the middle going, and got creamed. Gravel in her knees, just run over. And that's how she met her best friend, who she is still friends with to this day. You're welcome. I have lots of stories. I'm good at stories. All I have to have is just one little thing to get me started. I come by it honestly. My mother's a storyteller too. Anyways, yeah, her best friend who ran her down with a bike actually came to our wedding, so. Although she came to our wedding as like my mother's emotional support friend, because my mother was having such difficulty with the fact that I was no longer her little girl. Or her big girl. Or her anything girl. I just feel like the shading on that leg is not as dark as it is on that arm. Consistency would be nice. I mean, I could do a Twitch stream where I just ramble and tell random weird stories from my childhood and my parents' childhoods and life in general. But I don't know if anybody would tune in to watch that. I'm not out to be a personality streamer. I'm just here to make art. Oh, too dark. Is that a little better? You can definitely tell the difference where I've done more shading and coloring and detail work versus where I've just got the color blocked in. I'm trying so hard to hold it still so that the camera will focus. My nasty gray-brown color's starting to get low though. That's the official color name, Nasty Brown, for a nasty Krampus. That's what podcasts are for? Just telling random weird stories? I guess some of them. And thank you, yes. I mean, using the crazy tiny brush is, it's a little bit of madness. I'm aware of that. But it's my jam. It does give some good texture. Coffee's getting cold. I'm I'm so proud of myself. This is my 4th stream. I have not once dipped my paintbrush into my drink. Probably jinxing myself. There we go. Just needed to delete that a little bit. Thank you. I'm glad you like his horns. I still feel a little conflicted that they're kind of close to the Santa Krampus horns. They've got basically the same shape to them, but it's a very different angle. So I'm hoping that's the redeeming difference. I feel like I want a little more dark in here. I gotta look up periodically. Yesterday I got towards the end of streaming and looked up and realized that everything was dark around me. Went out in the living room, it was all dark. Evening just creeps up on you this time of year. And since Bridgie is upstairs working, I don't like for her to come downstairs, finish working, come downstairs and find it just all like dark and abandoned looking, just because I'm hiding out in the back of the house. There's supposed to be so many shortcuts to drawing fur, but I don't think anything quite beats just doing a bunch of little tiny short strokes with a small brush. And as you can see, it doesn't have to take absolutely forever. Not if you just do it quick. think I'm going to go ahead and go real dark down on the ends of his legs here. Oh, yeah, I like that. One leg and the tail to go. I can hear my wife stirring upstairs. If that's good enough for that leg. She was looking for Christmassy ribbons. Our craft room with all the art supplies is directly over the room I'm sitting in. Alright, I can barely see that weird blotch where the paper went weird on his leg now, so I feel better about that. My wife is working on making plushie Krampuses, which are way cuter than what I'm drawing, but I saw one far enough along last night that you could tell where it was going, and my God, they are adorable. We are going to have a Krampusy kind of Christmas. I talked with my parents on the phone last night and tried to explain the Krampus art to my parents. They had no idea who Krampus was. Which honestly surprised me a little, because my parents are sometimes up on, my mother especially, sometimes up on mythology of different countries. So she's only going to have one done by tomorrow at best. Well, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. Post-Thanksgiving, people are really going to get into the Christmas shopping mode. Oh my gosh. Well, apart from the horns, he himself is technically done. Obviously, I've still got to get his accoutrements. I ran errands today, and the radio station that my car was set to, apparently just today, finally busted out in the Christmas music. I had to turn it down on the way to get food and stuff, because Ah, I can draw Krampuses, but man, I'm not ready. I'm just not. It's so hard to get out of October mode. I mean, some part of my brain never leaves October mode. Bridgie already knows this one, but my most hated Christmas songs are always the ones that played on repeat on the Radio Shack Christmas DVDs. We would get sent one DVD a month, and you'd have to play it every day, all day, for the whole month, until they sent you the new one. And, yeah, certain songs. Halloween is the Hotel California. Yeah, that's kind of an obnoxious song, too. Carol of the Bells is pretty awesome. There's, what is it, Mannheim Steamroller Christmas version and stuff out there, which is amazing. Most of my favorite Christmas carols are the more obscure ones. Ones that are even pre-Christian a little bit sometimes, because that's how I roll. The spooky Sherpa that leads you away from Halloween and into winter and beats you with a stick. Should I put that on the sheet that I'm going to make with the description of who and what Krampus is? You know, I was going to do black, but maybe I'll go ahead and do red for the straps around the barrel here, too. I keep saying barrel. It's supposed to be a basket, but it's a basket made of wood? I don't know. Again, I'm going off of some drawings. Older drawings that I found online. I like the idea of going caroling sometime. I don't know if the reality would be good or not. And frankly, I don't know that many Christmas carols that well. I would need a lyrics sheet, because otherwise I would forget the lyrics halfway through. And only get the choruses right. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Making good decisions. My wife says she changed her mind. She doesn't want to be Santa. She says I can be Krampus and she'll be the Mari Lwyd. I feel like I should do some Christmas art of her as well. Is she considered a her? Well, it's a mare, so I guess technically yes. But I don't know whether I'll get to it this year. Maybe this year can be a Krampus Christmas and next year can be a Mari Lwyd Christmas. unavoidable amount of lag on this thing. Just between, transmission from my phone to the screen. And I am watching on the screen so that I can see the chat more easily. So, I can see myself on the screen doing things after I do them. It's a little disorienting. It's kind of like if I had the camera on my own face, I could watch myself blink. Okay. Now, do I make his bells... Well, that needs to be blended. Do I make his bells gold or silver? Yes, I am using metallic silver for the chain, but I will have to go back in and hit up the details with some dark grayish brown. Didn't intend to, but I'm going to show a little bit of that other cuff there. You think silver would look best? A match with the cuffs. Silver bells, it's Krampus time in the winter. In the city? One of those. Ding-a-ling, hear them ring. He's here to eat your children. You're welcome. I'll see myself out. Oh, I don't want to mix up more of this nasty brown because this is the last painting I'm using it on. But man, I'm scraping the bottom here. Yeah, I need to change my water. There is metallics in my water. Everything is silver now. I do wonder who else is watching, because there's definitely other people watching. But if you just feel like lurking, that's okay. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sure that sounded like ice cubes clinking. That is actually my notification sound. Because I'm recording from my phone. What it is trying to notify me of, I don't know. I'm not about to look right now. I feel like it's still coming out a little bit metallic, but a small glacier calving on my phone. Yeah, I'm sure it's loud as hell over the stream, and I apologize for that. If I were a smarter person, I would have turned off notifications before I started the stream. Yeah, from my perspective, his horns have this, like, metallic shimmer to them. They're fairy horns. Krampus just likes to feel glittery sometimes. And there ain't a thing wrong with that. Gotta get in the details on top of the silver. Actually, I may be better off using black for that. Alright, well, 2 hours and 17 minutes in, and he himself is done. Now comes the time of figuring out what I'm doing for the background. Or I may delay on that and pencil in the border a little bit first. Pardon me while I Google some photo reference real quick. You know, you can always think that you know what something's supposed to look like, but it never hurts to get some actual photo reference up in front of you. Second guess yourself, it's okay. Oh man, one of the things that came up was somebody's watercolor drawings of pines. So I definitely feel like I should include some pine cones in there. Oh, you know what? I actually didn't finish detailing his tongue. He could use just a little more on that. Just when you thought he was done, right? So I do definitely want some pine cones in there. I might put those in first. And that'll help guide where everything else lays. Why, yes, I am just figuring things out as I go along. I know they look kind of like potatoes. The idea is that I'm blocking in where the shape is, and then they'll get darker details over top of that, so that the color that you're seeing here right now is just going to be the highlight color when all is said and done. Definitely taking suggestions for the background, though. Kind of thinking something wildernessy, but I don't want it to go too dark because I want him to stand out. But he's also clearly not standing in the snow because you can see the bottoms of his hooves clearly. There we go. Krampus surrounded by small potatoes. I think, since I'm so hesitant on the background on this one, and a little hesitant on the pine boughs and pine cones, I'm going to try and finish the background on this guy real quick. Also, I was using some of the dirty brown for that, so before I run out of that. And that'll buy me time to think about the other one. Thank you. His foot still bothers the hell out of me. Not that I drew it badly or anything, just that the anatomy is, just wrong. So wrong. So very, very wrong. But what are you gonna do? I will never stop being disturbed by the foot with two heels, and that's just part of the facts of life. He has a very nice suit, but he cannot compete with the Wilderness Krampus for the length of tail. It's supposed to be a fireplace here behind him. Demonic Bilbo Baggins. I can kind of see that. Is it the short pants? I bet it's partly the short pants. Short pants and bare feet. I'm just making a muddy mess of this at this point, but of the color in the palette, I mean. Doesn't matter too much because I won't be using it anymore after this, but trying to keep the background kind of light here so it's not too overwhelming. Krampus is going to carry off the Sackville Bagginses. I know there was like some kind of beef between Bilbo and the Sackville Bagginses. I don't know what the beef is. I read The Hobbit several times. I don't know how much of it I retained. Lord of the Rings I never did get through, but The Hobbit I could get through. Did he maybe just not like them because they were relatives? And sometimes your relatives just tick you off. They tried to call his stuff when they thought he was dead. Well, that's legit. That's absolutely legit. I would be peeved at somebody for that. I never got around to seeing the actual Hobbit movies. I think we saw the first one, maybe, and then gave up after that. Bridgie is my Lord of the Rings expert, though. She grew up with her dad reading those and doing the voices, and he's just cool like that. Oh, she says we took her mom to see the first one. I'm sorry, I should have remembered that. Guess that was a while ago now. Oh, I don't blame Peter Jackson for the Hobbit stuff at all. I mean, I think he was kind of done with it. It sounded like he wasn't super interested in making it, or at least not at that time, and they just kind of forced him into it, so, you know, what are you going to get out of that? It's not going to be good. But that's not on him. I briefly entertained the idea of doing texture on the wallpaper, but that way lies madness. Guillermo del Toro's version. I would like to see Guillermo del Toro's version of, like, anything, basically. Haven't watched Pan's Labyrinth yet because that looks intense, but I will basically watch anything that man makes. I am a huge fan of practical effects and puppetry, so I absolutely respect his approach to filmmaking. Pinocchio is one of those stories with potential because it's weird as shit. Am I allowed to say that on a stream? I think I am. As long as we acknowledge that it's for adults, not kids. But, yeah, I mean, the whole story is just bizarre. And not in a kid-friendly kind of way. One of the reasons things lose to Disney in the box office is because there's parents who will take their kids to see literally anything just because it's Disney. They're just banking on the brand at this point. Even when I was a little kid, I was not a huge fan of Disney. I liked a lot of like Don Bluth and Rankin Bass. Some of my favorite childhood animated movies are stuff like The Secret of Nim or Watership Down, which is not anything. Well, I mean, it's something, but it's not. It's not Don Bluth or Rankin Bass. But and The Last Unicorn, which is Rankin Bass, and of course everything Jim Henson. You met Peter S. Beagle once? I'm jealous. Disney isn't great with adapting characters, just ask Ka. See, now, I always got a fun story about Ka, because when I was a kid, we had a bunch of Rudyard Kipling on the shelf. So I grew up, reading Rudyard Kipling, and I loved the Jungle Books. Bagheera was my favorite, but Ka was a pretty close second. I liked snakes as a kid. And we got ready to do a play in my grade school of the Jungle Books. And I got cast as Ka, and I was so excited. And I didn't realize that this play that we were doing at school of the Jungle Books was based off of the Disney movie, because I had never seen the Disney movie. But I got cast as Ka, which was cool. I was excited about that. I wanted Bagheera, but I would take Ka. And I got to sing a song, and my mom made me this freaky cool snake costume that I could like pull my arms in so I didn't have any arms. And then years later, a friend of mine forced me to watch the Disney version of the Jungle Book, and I was horrified. I was like, what is this? This is like happy fun time song and games, and that's not what it's about. I mean, it's a horrific story about being caught between worlds and not having a place either with the humans or the animals, and he kind of bounces back and forth between them, and I mean, he kills Shere Khan and drapes his hide across Pride Rock until it rots. I grew up reading that, and then they show me this Disney movie. I'm like, what is it? This is not the same story at all. Kind of glad I didn't see the Disney movie back when I was in the play, because it might have made me not want to be in the play. Also kind of disturbing that Ka sounded like Winnie the Pooh. You're right, not Pride Rock. It's, God, I forget what it's called. But it's the rock that they meet on. I used to have the hunting song of the C&E Wolf Pack memorized, too. I don't know if I've read any Borges. I hope I'm saying that right. I have to admit, I saw the Last Unicorn movie well before I read the book. And I get why they did the movie the way they did compared to the book, but I kind of wish they hadn't cut out the bit with the village, because the implication was that the dude's son came from there. Yes, I did make a mistake calling it Pride Rock. Shere Khan's hide on Pride Rock. I mean, tigers don't live in that area, but on the other hand, look at the Tarzan movies where there were lions in the jungle. I bet if you search on DeviantArt, there's some kind of crossover fan art where there is Shere Khan with the lions from The Lion King. I bet it exists. Shere Khan would kick their asses. Aren't tigers bigger than lions? Didn't they actually say they used some tiger roars for movies sometimes because lion roars are not impressive enough? Even if a lot of the lion roars from The Lion King are Frank Welker roaring into a trash can. But don't look up Jungle Book art on DeviantArt. There's pretty much anything that you can look up on DeviantArt and regret it. Bald eagles sound ridiculous. They do. They really do. We had a lot of bald eagles where I grew up. When I was in middle school, I actually was part of a project where we would go out on sites and count bald eagles, adults and juveniles and stuff, to track the population. Not nearly as exciting as it sounds, but still cool to have been a part of. Frank Welker roaring into a trash can is the most terrifying sound in the world. Frank Welker is a voice acting god. Now there is a man I would love to meet. I mean, he seems like a cool guy, too. I saw the first Land Before Time movie. I don't know that I saw the sequels. I might have been just a little bit too old for them. Certainly I was old enough when I saw even the first one that it didn't scare me. Because I seem to recall that there's a part towards the beginning of Land Before Time that is legit scary to little kids. Secret of Nim did scare me. The part with the lab rat scared me. All the laboratory bits. And then I saw Plague Dogs when I was a small child. And that was a mistake. Egg-eating dinos who were trying to steal eggs to eat. If someone interrupted me every time I was trying to get something to eat, I'd want to drop kick them off a cliff too. Yeah. I like carnivorous animals perfectly fine, but they do certainly get a bad rap in animated movies. Unless you're talking about Beastars. But that's a whole other ball game there. And no spoilers, I haven't gotten that far through it. I finished season 1. I just started season 2. I don't know what I would have done if I'd seen Beastars as a kid. Seems like the kind of thing that could have happened if it was around. I definitely watched some animated stuff as a child that was not intended for children. Zootopia for adults. Well, kind of. It definitely touches on some of the same themes of what do you do when you have anthropomorphized animals living together, but you've got meat eaters and vegetarians, and they're living in the same culture, and you know, like Disney movies and stuff just kind of humanize them, you know, almost completely. But they are meat eaters versus vegetarians, so how do you have those coexist? Let's really examine that in detail, in nitty gritty, terrifying detail. It's an interesting exploration. And it's made more interesting by the fact that they approach it through the eyes of, you know, a lot of anime center around school-age kids, because that is the audience for a lot of anime too. But you've got these, you know, young teenage kids kind of learning about their own society and how their society deals with that. So it gives you a good insight into it. You're learning about it at the same time as they're learning about it. You kind of resented Disney movies for always making reptiles the bad guys. I mean, that's not just a Disney movie thing. It's a Western culture thing. I liked snakes when I was a little kid. I remember we went somewhere and I got a toy snake. And I was very pleased with it. And we were out through the shopping mall, and I was a very sociable little kid, so I ended up talking to this stranger lady, and I was like, I got a toy snake. And my mother was like, you can't start talking to people about snakes. Some people don't think of snakes as, you know, as the animal. They see them more as a symbol for evil. And if you don't know the person, they can take things the wrong way. Which, truth. Also, my mother is a little paranoid. But Snake and Robin Hood with his cape. I liked, and he was, of course, again a villain, but I liked there was a snake villain character in an episode of Tailspin, which, of course, he was also voiced by Tony Jay, so that might be part of why I liked him, too. But he had this metal jaw and a big cape, and he was, you know, very anthropomorphic and stuff through the story. And then, like, at the end of the story, when he got away, he dropped his jaw and his cape and was just like total snake, like an animal, and just slithered away and was able to escape that way. It was good character design. Well, this guy's going to be done pretty soon. I may end the stream once I finish him because I'm coming up on 3 hours here. And my back gets stiff after about that time mark. So then I will have all of them done except for the Wilderness Krampus. We'll probably finish him off stream over the weekend. And hopefully next week I'll be able to sell cards of these guys. I will not stream every day next week, but I am going to try and do some art streams next week. Not sure what kind of art I'll be doing, but I've got plenty of ideas. The real problem is just settling down and figuring which one to actually do. I have an idea for a Selkie painting that I would like to do, and it would be kind of wintry, beachy. But I also have a friend who wants me to draw a baby New Year's centaur for some New Year's cards. I didn't know New Year's cards were a thing, but they want it, and they're not exactly commissioning me, but they have absolutely said that they will buy it if I draw it, so sort of the same thing. Semi-commission. I tend not to like commissions, but I'm down with that idea. Also, I just really love drawing gangly full bodies, which is why I had that centaur full character. So I have lots of reference art for that already. The human baby part is going to be the hard part, because I'm not great at drawing babies or children. There's like a fruit fly in here. I don't know where it came from. It needs to leave my picture alone. Does anybody really send out New Year's cards? You can't draw people, but you can kind of draw animals. I mean, it just takes practice. I couldn't draw people for the longest time. I drew exclusively animals, or almost exclusively animals, up through middle school for the most part. I think late middle school is when I started actually attempting to draw human beings. But before that, people just didn't interest me. I wish I could say, I mean, artistically, people just didn't interest me. But no, I really mean people didn't interest me. And yet somehow I did not become a furry. Played Grendel in a medieval studies play once. That would be awesome. I have read, I was going to say the original text of Beowulf. It's obviously not, but a translated but still heavily poetic direct translation of Beowulf when I was in high school. It was a little rough to get through. Your monster thing goes way back. Well, my animal thing goes way back. looking back at, you know, the stuff that I drew and the things that I was interested in as a kid, I'm kind of astonished I didn't end up a furry. I like furries all right. I mean, they're just people. They have a reputation in the artistic community of paying artists what they actually deserve for their art, which is honestly an awesome reputation to have. But yeah, I have drawn a lot of animal art that I still sell, and I like drawing animals, but I don't have like an animal persona or whatever. Bridgie is signing off because she's going to do some sewing. I'm going to sign off as soon as I get these thorn branches finished, which I've only got this little section left. We're both trying to prepare because we got the market to sell our artwork and plushies at tomorrow in the morning. So that's why she's trying to sew a bunch of stuff to get it ready in time. I mean, she's been sewing all week, but you can't possibly have too much stuff to sell. Not when it's handmade and one of a kind. It can be a little tricky to keep up with the demand. That's one thing about selling the artwork, is that I can make prints, and I can make infinite prints. And I knew I probably wasn't going to have these ready for tomorrow morning, but I've gotten close. I should have them ready for next week's market. Last couple of thorns. I think that's probably good. I think this guy's done. So that's 3 done, and 1 that just needs a background. Oh, caught onto the edge of something. Not too bad. That's a lot of Krampuses. Alright, I'm going to end the stream. But thank you for watching. I would raid if I could figure out how to do it from streaming from my phone, but I haven't quite worked that out yet. Thank you, and I'll see you guys around.